Hello everyone and welcome to GPVWC. Today we're at round 11, the classic Circuit de Spa Francorchamps. Not of course the classic or historic course, but the modern Grand Prix layout of the circuit. This of course the Supercup level of competition, GPVWC with various different levels, and this is one of the closest. It's one of the top series without the in-season upgrades and in-season development, and as a result the cars are absolutely equal apart from setups, and the drivers are absolutely gunning for it at all times. We're just preparing for the first for the start of the qualifying session. It's going to be 15 minutes as usual, as the drivers will vie for the top spot on the starting grid, which here at Spa isn't hugely important. There is a lot of slipstreaming and a lot of overtaking that goes on, but it is still a major advantage, and as a result the drivers will be going for it as much as they can. The session is just taking over now, which means we just have a few seconds until we start seeing the cars exiting the pit lane for the start of the qualifying session. And seeing as we started the broadcast at this time, it means we're going to be showing you the entire session and you'll be able to see every single lap. Anyway, out onto the track go the first few cars as soon as the green light shows, which it will in a couple of seconds. And then they will head around to start their first flying laps. Here we go. Let's see who's first out on track. It's Jason Muscat in the Multiforce car. Now, Jason actually missed the last round, but he's back for today and has some points to regain as a result of missing out. Still only still 7th in the championship as a result of that. And when he left us, he'd been on a little bit of a point scoring streak. 3 top 5 finishes in his last 4 races, although of course 2 DNFs at Canada before that held back his campaign. I'm reading the wrong driver's scores. Never mind, I'm reading Owen McGorgy's scores. Jason did not miss the last round, Owen McGorgy did. And Owen, of course, is not back here today, I'm afraid to say. Never mind, ignore everything I've just said. My apologies. Anyway, Jason Muscat will still be the first driver to set a flying lap here today. Still has quite a long way to go on this lap though. So let me talk you through a few of the notable drivers in the series. We'll go through the championship standings in a little bit, but first of all we do have some brand new drivers here who haven't raced in any of the other Supercup races so far this season. Stan Vleistra has raced in Formula Challenge, and he is brand new to the Supercup. For this season anyway. I don't have the statistics for races people may have done in the past. Vleistra's Formula Challenge results leave a little bit to be desired. He raced at the German round and was outside of the top 20 in both of those. But some drivers do better in higher downforce cars anyway, so we'll see what he can do in Supercup. He's still in the pits as we talk. Kevin Vikers, who is just setting up for a lap, will be racing for ST Racing today. And I don't think that Vikers has actually raced with us yet this season. Let me just check the Academy results to find out if he's raced there. I don't think that he has. He has. Okay, so he's done 2 Academy rounds, and they haven't actually gone particularly well for him either. So a couple of drivers with a few points to prove today. Racing for PB Racing today will be Dominic Wiederhoeft. And Wiederhoeft has been racing in not Formula Challenge and not Academy either, so he is brand new to the series for today. And actually I've got to admit I haven't seen him racing anywhere else in the past, so I really don't know what to expect from Dominic Wiederhoeft. So keep that in your mind, I guess. Currently going for a big slide as well is a whoa and a spin, keeps it out of the wall. Krzysztof Grishik, and apologies if I am pronouncing that name wrong. That is a rather difficult one to pronounce correctly. He will be racing for PZZW today, although will not set a qualifying lap. That is providing he knows that he's not always heading back out onto track. You're not supposed to do that if you've spun off and escaped back to the pits. So I think that Grishik probably doesn't know that rule and is probably going to get a penalty for that. But anyway, drivers often get penalties for that on their first Supercup round. Hopefully he remembers not to do that in future rounds. Anyway, back to the session. Menno Klont is the first driver to set a timed lap, so actually moved ahead of his Multiforce teammate there, and it was a 149.058. Tom Stevens beats that 148.656, and Marco Furlich is currently 3rd in the session, but there is a long way to go. And as a result, drivers still have plenty more opportunities. We're watching Shimon Frelich by the looks of things. He has not yet set a flying lap. Through the pont he goes. A fast double left-hander, doesn't quite use all the track, although this is still very early in the session. Shimon into Lefania, which is that little chicane there, also known as the Piff Path. Then down to Stavolo. Someone corrected me the other day and said that said that it was Davilo. I can't remember what I was calling it, campus or something like that. But anyway, I think it has been referred to as campus. There is a college there, but anyway. Up towards Blanchemont, another completely flat out corner. It didn't used to be flat out, but in these cars, they have so much downforce and so much mechanical grip through those slick tyres that you can do basically anything you like with the car and it'll be okay. Oh, very out of shape in the bus stop chicane, but that's going to be a lap with Shimon Frelick there. And he goes P19, although was fastest to Venny. No, that's not right. Jason Muscat now, fastest in the first sector. He's P21. And did have a lap time, although it looks as if that was mainly just when he set while giving his teammate Nano Clont a tow. And this time it's Clont giving Muscat a tow. And across the line goes Jason. P3, not bad at all, not bad. Tom Stevens still P1. Chris Butcher P2. Muscat going for a big slide, but it's okay because he's just finished his lap. Here's Luke Maguire, yet to set a flying lap. Fastest in the first sector. Second sector split is right there, so we're about to see his second sector time. Or not, it should have shown up by now. Anyway, into the bus stop he goes, and into the pits. So that is Luke Maguire's lap gone. I wonder whether maybe he had his lap invalidated in the middle sector, and that's why it wasn't showing up. Anyway, Luke Maguire has come back into the pits, meaning he will get another chance at that one. He'll be able to go out and give it another go. In terms of penalties, we're only expecting one today. Tom Ely has a 10 slot grid penalty after the last race, but he stays, and he's currently only 24, so that wouldn't affect him much as things stand. Couple of drivers yet to set flying laps. Philip Koenig is one of them, Luke Maguire of course the other, and the other is Christoph Grishuk, who is on track, although according to the rules shouldn't be right now. And we're currently watching him. Let's see what he can do anyway. This could give us a good idea of what kind of times he's capable of and what we should be looking for in the races. And of course, wherever he qualifies now will count. He'll get a penalty for the next round, but he'll still be able to start wherever he qualifies here. Only P24 and quite a long way off the pace, I'm afraid to say. But maybe that was just a warm-up lap. Here's Philip Koenig, the other driver yet to set a flying lap. And we're watching these drivers because a lot of the faster drivers who are competing over pole position are currently in the pits or on out laps, and as a result, won't be going any quicker anytime soon. It'll be in the final 5 minutes or so of the session that they will be really worth watching for. And actually that's being shown in the fact that we have very few laps being set right now anyway. Philip Koenig, probably the fastest driver out there at this point in time. Meanwhile, there was just a jump in the order. Tom Ely went up to P23, although he's still a little way down in the order. And his teammate Philip Koenig in the RTD racing car, which I always say reminds me of a mid-90s Simtech, is back to cross the line. And he goes, that's a lot better actually, that's P15, so just about in the points paying positions. Now at Spa you often see the biggest gaps between the cars in qualifying that you'll see at any other track, simply because this is the longest circuit in terms of times. That's where you see the drivers around 15th or so being 1.8 seconds off the leaders. That's perfectly normal, and they're doing just as well as they would at any other track. It's just a little bit misleading. Luke Maguire getting a wonderful slipstream from his teammate down the straight, going past, and that sets him up nicely for the fastest first sector of anyone so far. Oh, that looked very quick there, out towards Bruxelles. Here is Bruxelles, also known as the Carousel. Sure, I've also had another interesting name for that corner recently, but I can't remember it. Down through Speakers or X Curva. They used to call it No Name, although it does have names. It has two names to be precise. One official, one not quite so official. Down into Pith Path. and down towards Stavelo. Yellow flag showing up. Hopefully that's nowhere near where Luke Maguire currently is on a flying lap. Someone's just beat him in the first sector, actually. You'll see that, by the way, his time is no longer green. Not sure who that is, but Tom Stevens has improved his time and gone to the top. So Tom Stevens still P1, and by further than before. We continue to watch Luke Maguire, though, as he comes up towards the bus stop. There's, oh dear, big twitch. That was looking good up until that point. That's going to cost him maybe half a second. Oh, I think he would have gone pole without that, or provisional pole anyway. He's P2, 148.552. Definitely some time to be gained from Luke Maguire. Now here's Chris Butcher drifting his way through La Source. My goodness. Now he's going to get a slipstream from Luke Maguire. A deliberate tow down the Camel Straight. DRS will be open as well. You can use that at any time in the qualifying session. And he goes through now. Maguire and Butcher are right together on track, and of course in the session, second and third, and of course in the championship. They are fighting for the overall championship lead as we speak. Just 6 points between them coming into to this round. So once the race starts, don't expect them to be quite so friendly with each other. I think that was Christoph Krischuk just having another accident in front of them, I'm afraid to say, but anyway. They're now getting a little bit held up by another car. There's a car getting out of the way. Does get out of the way though. I don't think he'll be in too much trouble for that one. First sector time was down. I think he got slightly too twitchy through the La Source. Meanwhile, Jason... Oh, and Mike Quint goes to the top. That was unexpected. That lap was completely off my radar until that. He was a couple of tenths down, but in the third sector pulled out an absolute stormer. Back to what I was saying about Muscat, he also improved his lap and was fastest in the third sector. Chris Butcher is well down in the second sector, so he will be pulling into the pits this time along with his teammate to set up for one final flying run, I expect. They both come in. So one final flying run expected for those. It's a HGP 1-2 in this session as it stands. The HGP car is very fast, as we are so used to seeing in these rounds. Not many of the top drivers are currently on flying laps right now. I think Tom Stevens may have just started one though. Tom Stevens currently P2 in the order. And there is Mike Quint, your pole sitter, but I think he's on an in-lap because he's 2 seconds or 1.5 seconds down on the first sector. So let's watch Tom Stevens, see what he can do. It says out-lap actually, so I may be wrong about that, but I'm sure I saw him past the pit exit. This does appear to be an outlap though, so I must be mistaken. Apologies about that. He will get one final flying run though, as will a bunch of the other top runners. Judge Sutton just went 11th, by the way. Anything down to 15th will be the point scoring positions in the race. In qualifying, of course, no points on offer, but it can rather directly affect your race result. Now the top drivers gearing up for their final flying runs. Tom Stevens is about to start his, and not too long after him will be Luke Maguire and Chris Butcher for their final flying runs as well. Nano Clont has started his. He's currently P7. And there are a couple of other drivers going for last-ditch attempts as well. When the checkered flag comes out, the drivers will be allowed to complete their flying laps, but once that lap is over, and that is the end. Interestingly, Owen McGorky is letting us know that the reason he's not racing is because he can't clamp his wheel to his desk. That's an unusual problem and a shame, but that is apparently why he's not racing today. Luke Maguire is about to start his final flying lap. We're currently watching Tom Stevens. He's just got a wonderful slipstream from his teammate. What a big twitch. Mike Quint being very sportsmanlike, considering that he is currently sitting on provisional pole position. And Chris Butcher is about to do the same for Luke Maguire as well. I think pole here is between Quint, Stevens and Maguire. Because Butcher's going to sacrifice his lap to allow Maguire to get the slipstream. That's surprising, actually, since Maguire's already ahead of Butcher in the session. I'd have thought that it would have been Butcher's turn to get a flying lap. But I guess not. It's definitely going to be between those top three now. And it seems like Quint actually doesn't necessarily want to start on pole. Remember, he's standing in for McGorky. He's trying to help his team to the team's championship rather than the driver's championship. Stevens is fastest of anyone in the second sector. His first sector was off his personal best. It's all going to be about the third sector here. The bus stop chicane is going to be so important for this bunch. Someone just moved up in the lower part of the top 10, but continue watching this. Tom Stevens approaching the line. Goes pole by 9 thousandths. Now what can Luke Maguire do? Can he disrupt the HGP front row? He's got a wonderful slipstream from one of the RTD cars there. That actually really helped him. Meanwhile, Damien Cardash jumped to P7, but keep watching Maguire. It's going to be all or nothing for Luke Maguire. Can he keep it under control through the bus stop? This is where he struggled before. That looked better. Opens the DRS across the line. And it's pole. No surprise there, but what is a surprise is that it's by 0.3 of a second. That was very well done for Luke Maguire there. I told you that his mistake previously would have cost him maybe half a second, and I think that proves it, because Maguire takes a considerable pole position on his final attempt. Fantastically done. And I believe that's it, because everyone else I see here did not cross the start-finish line in time to start one final flying run. So it's going to be Luke Maguire on pole, followed by the two HGPs of Tom Stevens and Mike Quint. In fact, we can get you the results of the qualifying session in a second. I think I saw there we go, there's the graphic for it. Luke Maguire on pole for THR, followed by Tom Stevens and Mike Quint for HGP, and Jason Muscat, Chris Butcher, Vincent Gert, Menno Klont, Damien Cardash, Moritz Kropp and Shimon Frelich. We appear to have 2 7th places there, but sometimes that happens. Then it's going to be Jan Grankvist, Marco Ferlich, George Sutton, Philip Koenig, Stan Vleistra, who is the top of the new drivers for today, I think. Then it's Mika Hakimi, Dominic Wiederhof, Craig Patterson, Antonio Krelinovic, Owen Phil Hagsvik, and those are the top 20. And then Tommy Koivunen, Kevin Vikers, Scott Sovic, Daniel Felipe Carrera, Garrett Fries. Tommy Lee will be starting from the back, remember. Christoph Krajcik will be starting ahead of him due to Ely's 10-place grid penalty. So that's how they stand. All 27 drivers in that order. And what a pole position that was for Luke Maguire. So we have a couple of minutes now until the start of the race. We're going to have a brief warm-up session first, and then we will be heading straight to it. But we're not going to go for a break. We'll do that maybe after the second or after the first race between the two. Instead, let's talk about the championship so far. Chris Butcher, of course, I mentioned how he's leading it, and that's by 6 points over Luke Maguire, 297 to 291 out in front. THR have been a dominant force in this championship so far. They haven't won every race. And actually, last time out, it seemed that Tom Stevens was the dominant force, as he won both of the races at Magny-Cours, and he's third in the championship, 85 points behind Luke Maguire. And I think everyone knows that it's going to be a little too late for him to contest the overall championship, but let's see how close he can get. And actually, if he can keep up his momentum from last round, maybe I'll have spoken too soon there. He's had a few dodgy rounds in this championship. India, Azerbaijan, and then of course Germany. He had technical difficulties which stopped him from starting both races. Moritz Kropp is fourth in the championship. He has 2 victories. Stevens, of course, with 3. Damien Cardash is 5th in the championship. He has 1 victory so far. Then it's Owen McGorky with 2 victories and a broken steering wheel, apparently. Jason Muscat is 7th in the championship. And after him, Alexander Garza, who picked up 1 victory, Austria Race 2. Craig Patterson, who won Silverstone at Race 2. And then Menno Klont, 10th in the championship. All of that, of course, means that Muscat is the top driver yet to win a race. Interestingly, Luke Maguire has more wins than his teammate Chris Butcher. 7 wins to Butcher's 3. However, Butcher has more podiums. Butcher was on an insane podium streak from China right the way through to race 1 of Canada. And he's on a bit of another podium streak right now, starting another one. He's been on the podium the last 4 races now, both races in Germany and both last time out in France. Luke Maguire, of course, didn't get so lucky. He was taken out by a backmarker in that one. In terms of the team's championship, THR, of course, the dominant force. They're leading on 588 points, ahead of HGP Motorsports 404. So that is a big gap there. And then third is Nova Simracing. Fourth is Multiforce, who have kept both of their drivers all the way through this season so far, much like THR have. Gallery 82 are next. And then Red Arrow and the rest. So that's how the championship stands coming into the round here at Spa Francorchamps. After this, we're going to be going for a 2-week break before coming back at Monza. And I won't be here for that round, unfortunately. I'll be on holiday. And then after that, Singapore, Japan, USA, and Brazil will end the season. So we've got 7 minutes till the start of the warm-up lap for the race here. Good evening to everyone watching along on YouTube, and everyone leaving comments in the YouTube chat. Josh down saying Guten Morgen. Not quite the the right time of day to be saying that, but anyway, hello Josh. Had a nice chat with Josh before the race was starting about Renault Clios and things like that. Hello to Owen McGorgy watching in the YouTube chat, Character Freeze, GameX98, Yamadox, and various other drivers and viewers as well. Just realised I haven't advertised this session on Twitter yet. I should get around to doing that, just so that my followers know what's going on. And then we will get back to this action at Spa Francorchamps. This is, of course, one of the most historic circuits on the calendar. Drivers like this very much, and spectators do as well. Personally, I've never gone very well at Spa as a driver. I find it really difficult, and other people seem to take it so much better than me. But anyway, I have to admit, it is a very exciting circuit to watch racing at. Formula Challenge 2 days ago was absolutely thrilling. And one thing I noticed in that, which I think is going to carry over to today as well, is that if you're leading going on to the Kemmel Straight, you're not necessarily going to be in any kind of good position by the end of it. There is a lot of slipstreaming that goes on down there, and a lot of gains from the DRS as well. And pretty much every time you get to the Kemmel, there's some kind of change to the order. I expect we're going to be seeing that pretty much every time today as well. We also, of course, have strategy in play. These drivers have to use 2 different compounds of slick tyre, providing it doesn't rain, although the sky looks rather blue today, so I don't think that's going to be any kind of consideration. And we do have a bit of a heat wave here in Europe right now, so I would have been very surprised to have turned up today and found out that it was going to be raining. But anyway, So yeah, two different compounds of slick tyre. We've got the softer and the harder type. And of course, the drivers will be using those strategically in the first race. You don't have to do that in the second race, just the first one. But that's going to add an extra dynamic to the two proceedings. I guess the camel is going to mean something quite unusual, which is that it's not actually going to be a huge disaster if you come out behind someone, providing you can get past them on the straights and not get held up too much in the corners. Because there are plenty of overtaking opportunities on this circuit, plenty of places to get through. Actually, I'm really looking forward to the Super League race here. I think that one's going to be absolutely thrilling, seeing what people do in the strategy. Of course, historically, the circuit being relatively easy to overtake on has had real-world applications. One of my favourite Grand Prix of all time was the 2008 Belgian Grand Prix, where Kimi and Lewis were fighting hard in the final few laps of the race. It was just starting to rain and it was getting slippery. That was a thrilling fight. And it wouldn't have happened like that on some of the other circuits of the calendar. Also, talking of Lewis, in around, I think it was 2016 or 2015, sometime like that, of course the Mercedes team elected to serve a 10-slot engine penalty that was overhanging for Lewis at that round, rather than serve it at any of the rounds where it was harder to overtake, and pretty sure Lewis ended up finishing on the podium that day, so it worked out well for them. So much history at the Spa Francorchamps circuit. Extending right back into the early 1920s, this circuit pretty much a centenarian by now. But still a very high-tech and modern race circuit nonetheless. And you can still walk around the circuit as it was back in those days, or at least most of it. A lot of those roads that they used to use out through the cities or the towns, I suppose, rather than cities, and the forests. Those roads are still there, and they are just public roads now. And they're only really cut off when they meet the circuit facilities. So you can very much follow that road right from the exit of Le Combe all the way through to the start of Stavelot or wherever it rejoins. Just 1 minute to go now until the end of the warm-up session, and then we will be ready to get going for the first of the two races. Just me in the commentary box today, you'll notice. Unfortunately, Ross McIntyre can't make it. Not entirely sure why. He said something came up. That's a big shame, but anyway, at least you've still got me. And of course, the cameras and stream that you're seeing are being provided right now by Heigo Poom and the GPVWC broadcast machine. We're watching Dominic Wiederhoeft, one of the brand new drivers to this series in the PB Racing car. I think he qualified 16th from memory. Not sure why I remember that so specifically, but Dominic Wiederhoeft starting just outside the points and definitely has potential to get inside those points in his first Supercup race. And what a statement that would be, that he deserves a seat in this series. Checkered flag is now out on the warm-up session. So what tends to happen here is the race director allows some drivers to finish their times and just gets the grid set up, makes sure that everyone is programmed to be starting in the right order, in the right grid slots, make sure that that any penalties are applied, and then just reminds the drivers to be careful on the first lap, and various other rules and regulations as well. Yes, indeed, looks as if everyone is being put into position right now. We appear to have lost a driver. There's only 26 here right now. I think it's one of the new drivers that's dropped out. Yes. looks as if, so the race director is saying they'll be moving to race in a minute, so it looks as if they're going to be starting without, oh goodness, I've already forgotten his name. My apologies. The driver who qualified 27th. Krzysztof? Yeah, that's it. Krzysztof Krzysztof. Race director Chris just letting the drivers know that they're moving to the race in a minute. The drivers with the 10 fastest qualifying laps must start on their qualifying compound, whereas those outside the top 10 may start on any tyre that they like. All drivers must use both dry tyre compounds during race 1. On the formation lap, he's asking them to please keep up with the cars in front and line up without delay at the end of the lap. That, of course, means that the drivers in front won't have to wait too long and their tyres won't get too cold. Please take extra care in the opening laps. Yes, let's. This circuit at Spa Francorchamps is quite prone to first lap pile-ups, of course. Think about 1998, think about 2009, the Grand Prix. And think about the various different Formula Challenge pile-ups we've had at this circuit in the past as well. I really hope that these drivers do take extra care in the opening laps of both races. Chris also reminding the drivers after they finish the race to drive past turn 1 before pressing escape and to avoid crashing the car immediately. Sometimes it can be tempting to just kind of crash your way across the finish line. Say, yes, I did it, don't need this lump of metal anymore. But you're not allowed to do that because it looks unprofessional and it can annoy the race directors. So they're often asked not to do that. The session is now ticked over, so we have just a minute until the start of the formation lap. Good luck to all of the drivers. Take care out there. That's the final message from the race director before the race gets going. It's going to be 22 laps of the Spa Francorchamps circuit. Leave your, oh goodness, dropped something, sorry about that. Leave your predictions and comments and queries maybe in the YouTube chat if you feel like it. And I'll probably see any of them that are posted before the race starts. Let's, when they start the formation up, we'll take a look at the full grid order. Lining up on the grid now, all 26 cars. Looks as if all of them have made it out, that's good to see, so none starting from the pit lane. Let's take a look at the starting order once again. Luke McGuire there will be starting from pole position in the THR car alongside Tom Stevens, Mike Quinn and Jason Muscat. Then it's Chris Butcher, championship leader from 5th place on the grid, and Vincent Gutt, Damien Kardash, and Menno Klont. From 9th on the grid, it's going to be Moritz Kropp in the Nova Simracing car. Then Shimon Frelich, Jan Grankvist, who's been very impressive the last few races, and then Marco Fröhlich. George Sutton is P13, then Philip Koenig. Currently the last points paying position goes to Stan Vlijtstra, or Vlijtstra. And then after him, P16 is Mika Hakimi, and then it's Dominic Wiederhoeft, so P17, I was just off on that prediction. Craig Patterson, Antonio Krelinovic, Owen Phil Hogsvik, Tommy Koivunen, Kevin Vikers, Scott Sovic, and Daniel Felipe Carrera. And then the final 2 cars on the grid will be Gerrit de Vries and Tom Ely, who of course had the 10th place grid penalty and will be serving one of those 10 places. That's how they stand, and that's how they'll start. And it's a very short run down to La Source as well, so I expect that to be roughly the order when we get to La Source, but at the end of the Camel Straight, it could be completely different as drivers slipstream past other cars and go for manoeuvres down into Le Combe. That's going to be the real talking point of the race. The Camel Straight. It's going to giveth and it's going to taketh away. And it's going to decide the result of this race. Around to the grid, the field of Supercup cars crawls. Luke McGuire weaves to get some heat into his tyres before the race begins. this track can be a little tougher than some of the others on tyre wear. It's not the worst track on tyre wear, but you need to be a little careful with the tyres. Especially considering there's not a very wide pit window here in terms of the number of laps, with it being such a small number. So sometimes if you stay out one lap and your tyres begin to go off, you've got the entire lap on dodgy tyres to get around. Tom Stevens and Mike Quint are using virtually the same helmet for this, which is going to confuse me. There's a very slight difference between the two, but from a distance you can't really tell. So let's hope the HGP cars spread out rather quickly. But anyway, the last few cars getting into position now. Tom Ely at the back. And then 5 red lights will come on at the front of the field. And when they go out, we will be underway for 26 laps of racing at Spa Francorchamps. And here we go. 4 lights, 5 lights. And it's go for Supercup at Spa Francorchamps. Away at the front goes Luke Maguire, and he pulls across to cover off the lead. Very well done. In the background, Muscat on the outside of Quint, and they don't quite touch wheels. They've got away with it. It looks as if Maguire runs slightly wide on the exit, but he is still under control, and everyone is cleanly through the first corner at least. Up through Rouge Radial now. This is the first real danger point of the circuit. And cars are swapping places already. Now comes the straight. Maguire going heavily defensive. And Stevens pops through on the inside and gets the move, but Maguire is going off. Maguire is going off on the outside, leaps over the curbs, and maintains the lead. May have to give that up because they were side by side. And now as I choke on my own breath, he does give the lead up. So Tom Stevens leads the race from Luke Maguire. Then Jason Muscat, Mike Quint, and Damien Kardash, the top 5. So Chris Butcher, championship leader, has lost 1 position already. And it looks as if we are still as clean as can be. That is always good to see. A couple of cars running wide through Poom, but they're just about okay. Now through the pith path, Stevens had the best possible start he could have got there. From second on the grid, he's up to the lead already. And Luke Maguire, of course, very sporting to give the place back and not have to be dragged kicking and screaming to the steward's room. And he's coming back at him into the bus stop, gets the run up the inside. That's going to turn into the outside though. But if he can keep it there, oh, and they touch, the leaders touch. They lock wheels, but somehow they get away with it. That could have been so much worse. And down into La Source, Luke Maguire has the inside line. Very good overtake despite the contact. Maguire takes the lead back, but now, is this even a point in the track where he wants to be ahead? We shall see. Up Radion towards the Comp. And he's up the inside, or what will be the inside. And they're 3 wide. Jason Muscat coming through. And a wonderful drive, Sebastian Vettel style. Jason Muscat takes the lead of the race on the second lap. Stevens and Maguire are still side by side, and Maguire holds him off. But Jason Muscat, what a drive there. Further back, Menno Clant got past Simon Frelick for P9. But up in front, a 3 wide battle on the Kemmel Straight has resulted in the top 3 completely swapping around each other. So, lap 2, and we are seeing so much excitement already. This is going to be the same all the way through this race meeting, mark my words. At the back, the ST Racing cars have started dropping back a little. Hopefully they didn't come together, but they appear to still have all of their wings intact. Back up in front, Quinn and Kardash still registered in that battle for first. They are still right there as well. And not wanting to let these top 3 get away from them. Tom Stevens will be thinking, where did that come from? I thought I was taking the lead and now I'm down to P3. could be under pressure for P3 as well, but I know that Quint's going to be trying to help them as much as he can. DRS open again. Maguire won't go for a lunge into to the source. He wants the exit speed. Let's see actually which of these two has a higher straight line speed. I think Maguire had a slight advantage over Stevens on the straight. Judging by the way he was able to stay just about ahead despite the DRS from Stevens' car. Here comes Maguire, and once again the lead may well change on the Camel straight. Up the inside he goes, just like Muscat did to him a lap ago. And it swaps once again. We have another leader of this race. Maguire, Muscat and Stevens have all led it. In the background, Stevens, Quint and Kardash stay in the same order, just about. Some moves going on outside of the top 12 as well. Antonio Shrelanovic there, just getting ahead of Marco Furlich as we watched. Spine at Vleistra, or Vleetstra, who still holds that final points paying position. What about tyres? Who's the top driver on medium tyres? Chris Butcher qualified on the medium tyres. And he is currently running in 6th position, doing an excellent job from the start. Second best driver on medium tyres is Jan Grankvist, down in P12. So Butcher with a huge advantage in that battle for the time being. Up towards Blanchimont, Maguire, Muscat, Stevens. And this is all setting up for the more important part of the track, the Kemmel Straight. Will it change for another lap? A 4th lap in a row we'll have seen the leaders going side by side down the Kemmel. Across the start-finish line, Maguire fastest of anyone on that lap. Of course, DRS is now active. It was active from lap 3, and this is lap 4. Already trying to pull across to just break the toe of Jason Muscat for just a fraction of a second more to try to stay ahead there in P1. Muscat taking a different line, trying to get the air to stay on his front wing. And now he will be slipstreaming, getting closer and closer to Luke Maguire. Once again, the leaders go side by side into Le Camp. Does Maguire make the corner? Yes, this time he does. So Maguire leads from Muscat still. And the rest of the top 5 stay in the same order. So that's the first time this race that we've seen it stay the same. Of course, further back there are still battles. Tom Ely is going past Owen Pure Haugsvik, and that was Made Stick. That was for P20. And Tommy Koivunen dropped a couple of places as well. He's now down into P25. So that's how that's happening further down. Up in front, Luke Maguire did so well in the final couple of sectors of the last lap to not only set fastest lap of the race, but allow himself the buffer to hold Jason Muscat off in the straight. Now, can he do the same thing again? It's going to be tougher to do a second time around. One of the things you've got to remember about Spa is that if you lose the toe of the car at the front, it's so difficult to catch back up again. But if you keep that, it's so difficult for them to lose you, no matter how hard they're pushing or how fast they are. And that's why Muscat is able to keep with Luke Maguire so convincingly right now. Not that Muscat isn't a fast driver at all, but he's doing everything he needs to do. Oh, a big twitch though. That might cost him a chance to get past Maguire this time around. Maybe. He's still relatively close heading up to the straight, but he'll need to overcome that deficit in straight line speed. He is now travelling faster than Luke Maguire as they approach the straight. DRS open, finds the inside this time rather than the outside, and he's gone through well before the corner. And that one was made stick, so Jason Muscat does take the lead now, ahead of Luke Maguire. In the background, Frelick and Kropp are side by side. Kropp all over the shot. And Frelick gets 8th on the inside. Nicely done. Kropp coming back and down into Bruxelles, but he'll have to give way in that one, I expect. Yes, indeed. You're more likely to run into the back of the car in front. Meanwhile, Tom Stevens has lost the slipstream, lost the DRS rather, of Luke Maguire. Well, Muscat ran very wide there into Pool. Kept it under control, but he was well over the white line on the outside, just as Moritz Kropp just did, but a little wider in Muscat's case, I think. Yeah, Stevens has dropped back from Maguire, so that puts him and Quint just ahead of Kardash and Butcher now. And Butcher's really using this DRS train to his advantage to stick with the cars ahead of him. And that's going to give him a massive strategic advantage. Into the bus stop once again, and across the start-finish line. And the gap is about half a second between Muscat and Maguire. That's what it has been the last couple of laps. And that will give Maguire an opportunity, but how much of an opportunity? I think he'll get alongside Muscat, but which side will he choose? And how far alongside will it be? DRS open, bang! Catching. The Irish colours on the helmet bobbling around as he goes to the outside and didn't get enough of an overlap. Muscat can defend those any day of the week, and off goes Quint. Whoa, flying over the curbs. Oh, and almost rejoining into the side of Damien Kardash. Kardash gaining 4th position with that. And Frelick now gains 7th over Vincent Gert. Looks if Quint was put under pressure by Kardash and then just ran it wide and flew over those sausage curbs. Glad they didn't come together. That would have been a very bad way for that fight to end. Stevens may have DRS back on Maguire now. He may be back in that battle for the lead. Honestly, I think any of the top 6 or so could win this race right now. It is hugely unpredictable. I think the least likely to win it, with all due respect, is Mike Quint, because he will be helping his teammate Tom Stevens as much as he can. And the most likely to win it is anyone's guess. Although currently the fastest driver out there is Luke Maguire. Into the bus stop to complete another lap of racing, on to lap 7 out of 22. A bit bigger than it has been the last few laps, actually, about 9 tenths per second. I'm not sure that Maguire is going to be able to get alongside Muscat this time, but he is still within DRS range, and he'll still be able to keep up with Jason Muscat. Depending on what he does in the corners, Mike Quint is more likely to repass Damien Kardash here for 4th position. Goes to the outside. DRS wide open on both cars, which won't be helping Quint. And he gets covered off by Damien Kardash there. He would have hoped that, or he would be wishing that this battle was taking place a little further back from his teammate, Tom Stevens. Maguire's going to have to do a good job this lap to actually keep the DRS, isn't he? Oh, and a big twitch from Maguire, but he keeps control. As we see the ST Racing cars going side by side, but Maguire was all over the place on the exit of X corner, or X curve, and he lost another 10th or 2 to Jason Muscat. So this could be the first time the leader has broken clear of the DRS of the car behind in this race. And that will be a major turning point in this race, I expect. Not saying that Luke Maguire can't still win this race. A lot can still happen at Spa, but it's going to be harder now. And he may need to rely on strategy rather than passing him on track in the first part of this race. Into the bus stop they go. Out of the bus stop they go. That's a difficult sequence of corners. It's uphill, but the corners are cambered in such a way that the car gets extremely twitchy in both parts. And you never really want to put your foot down. Maguire might just keep the DRS here. I think he's going to just be close enough. Let's see if he opens it or not down the straight. Alpha Rouge, Radiant. And the DRS does still open. He kept it. That was a good first sector from Luke Maguire there. And a very important one at that. Behind him, there's Mike Quint, not able to get close enough to Damien Kardash this time. Jan Grankvist is currently side by side with Mika Hakimi. two drivers who joined the season later. And Grankvist keeps P12. I think he was ahead anyway. Oh, who's that out of control? That was Wiederhoeft. Dominic Wiederhoeft from 16th place, getting all sorts of out of shape. Looked like he kept it in the right direction, but lost 2 positions in that, so let's see. That's a time there for Dominic Wiederhoeft. So we're on lap 8 out of 22. The pit stop stages will probably start soon for the soft tyre runners, depending on how far into this race they want to go. 11 laps, of course, will be the halfway point. Now, you'd think that these drivers would try to do more of the race on the medium tyre, since that's the more durable of the two, but sometimes they try to maximise the time spent on soft tyres, and sometimes they do more than half of the race on the softs. So maybe it'll be just after that point, maybe it'll be lap 11 or 12 when some of these later soft tyre runners come in. Lap 9 now, so we're getting closer and closer to the pit window, that crucial stage in the race that could decide everything. Onto the straight once again. You see the battle of the first graphic. That shows you how close everyone is to everyone in and amongst these top 5. And that's Quint on car dash. Once again, just a look, couldn't do anything better than that. Klomp, meanwhile, got up to 9th ahead of Moritz Krop, so that's a change there, I believe. There are, of course, 2 DRS on the circuit, but you'd be forgiven for thinking that there's only one, considering the other DRS zone is out of the final corner, and no one wants to overtake that because then they're vulnerable down the straight. So people use the DRS to try to set themselves up for moves, but they don't use it to actually go for overtakes. And into Stavolo. Still watching this battle amongst the top 5. Muscat and Kardash both up 3 places from their starting positions. No real big winners at the start there. I think Muscat probably the biggest winner in terms of where he started and where he is now. Craig Patterson's up 7, not bad. Pretty heckin' good actually, although still a couple of seconds from breaking into the top 10. Damien Kardash into the pits now from P4. I didn't expect the pit stop stages would start soon. And Kardash is in. Stops in his marks and will be going for medium tyres, which will take him to the end of the race. So Kardash going for an undercut, trying to pit earlier than most of his rivals. Once again, here's Muscat versus Maguire. They're close, but I don't think they're close enough. Maguire tries to unsettle Muscat, but stays behind him. Will he try to undercut him in the pit stages? Grankvist and Patterson are now side by side over 10th place. And Grankvist gets 10th place. Or gets to keep that 10th place for now. Incidentally, Damien Kardash. Oh, and we saw Ferlich going off the road briefly. Kardash came out in P19. He's just passed Owen Hagsvik, so he's up into P18. And has a bit of clean air now, but as I was saying before, clean air isn't the same kind of advantage that it is at some other circuits. I think the same is going to go for Monza next time out. You're going to almost want to come out behind another car. Maybe even more so than here at Spa. In fact, probably more so than here at Spa. But even today, the drivers will feel that this is almost pack racing rather than circuit racing. With the way the DRS affects whether you're in a battle or out of it. And into the source once again go Jason Muscat and Luke Maguire. onto the Camel. Maguire about 7 or 8 tenths back. It's a little too far. From what we've seen so far in the race, the president says, or the precedent, not the president, but the precedent says that you need to be about 5 tenths of a second behind the car in front, so about half a second to get alongside them on the straight. But of course, that will differ, that will vary depending on what kind of strategy these cars have got. Oh, Grankvist getting past Krop. Yeah, that was successful. Jolly good. This is where Grankvist tyres start coming into play as well. He'll probably be one of the latest to stop. As will, of course, Chris Butcher. Who are you watching there? That's Marco Furlich up the inside of Wiederhoeft. And that's P15 now. The final points being position for for Marco Furlich. Up ahead of him, Bleitstra. Damien Kardash still a little way back from this bunch, but catching fast. And before long, you'll be able to see him in the background, having stopped. And actually, he's now appeared on the Battle for 13th forecast there. Look how wide these guys are going through Pool on that. There you see Kardash in the background. Catching up to this quadruple. These 4. Into the pits comes Muscat from the lead. So Muscat does not want to give Maguire any more DRS. At the halfway point in the race exactly, Muscat comes in. He's usually one of the drivers to pit later because he can keep his tyres for quite an insanely long time. But Muscat into the pits from P5. Shimon Frelick also in, as are Vincent Gutt, Jan Grankvist, quite a few people in fact, Craig Patterson. Of course, Luke Maguire is now leading the race, ahead of Tom Stevens and Mike Quinn. What can Muscat do on his out lap? What can Maguire do on his in lap? Where will they come out in relation to each other? It really depends on what's better out of fresh tyres or soft tyres, and what's worse out of old tyres or hard tyres. Of course, the hard tyres have another disadvantage, which is that they're cold, but does that outweigh the advantage you get from not being on worn tyres anymore? We'll see in just a couple of moments, because Maguire's going to be forced to pit soon in order to cover off Jason Muscat, probably this lap. And then we'll see how this has really affected the battle for the lead. When drivers were that close before a pit stage, when there was just a second or even less than a second separating them, it really can come down to just how quick you were on the way into the pits, the pit entry. How well you took the hairpin on pit exit, for example. That can be the deciding factor in terms of who comes out behind and who comes out ahead. And then, of course, you've got the Camel straight after that, so it could all change again. And Luke Maguire is indeed in the pits, using all of the track on his way in. And Tom Stevens also in, so Mike Quinn briefly leads the race. Chris Butcher goes through to second. Where does Luke Maguire come out in relation to his main rival, Jason Muscat? Accelerator on, wheel spin. Muscat appears to have gone through, so Muscat seemingly building up more of a lead than before. Pit lane does exit on the inside though. That's about the same, but Muscat, of course, is travelling faster. I think Muscat's gained a couple of tenths of a second in that. And actually, is Maguire able to open the DRS? I think he will be able to. See if he does. No, he's actually not. He's about 1.4 seconds behind Muscat. I wasn't sure where the activation zone is. So Maguire's got to push now on these fresh tyres to catch back up to Jason Muscat and get back into that race for the lead. I reckon he can, but will he? That's the question. Interestingly, George Sutton, who's also still out on track, is also on the medium compound tyre, making Mike Quinn probably the last driver out there on softs who hasn't stopped yet. Mike Quinn's probably going to pit this time around Butcher and Sutton might stay out, although sometime soon they're going to want to put those softs on and benefit from that fresh soft tyre. And that can't be before long either. So I think we're suddenly going to see the pit lane become very busy once again. Mike Quinn into the pits now from the lead. Butcher stays out, he leads it now and gets the clean air. Chris Butcher is P1. And actually, I'm not sure that his alternate strategy is going to be as effective this round than it has been at some of the others. George Sutton is into the pits as well. And Muscat goes through, retakes P2. With Luke Maguire right there. The gap for the lead, 14.8 seconds, but it's going to come right down when Chris Butcher makes his stop. And actually, how far will Butcher be behind this bunch? Because Butcher has been one of the biggest names in this race so far, and to be honest, he could still pose a real threat for the podium positions. So that's one that I'm going to be looking out for as well. Here's Shimon Frelick, slipstreaming Damien Kardash. Looks as if he's going to go for it here. Frelick's been gaining and gaining all race, and he flies past Damien Kardash on the inside. Kardash, I think, probably pitted a little bit too early for his strategy to work too well, because he's dropped about 5 seconds to Mike Quint now. And has been passed by Shimon Frelick, and that's apparently for position. Marco Furlich is yet to stop. So, of course, it's Chris Butcher. The Damien does appear to have lost a little bit of time through the pit stages now, which could cost him a position or two. Towards the end of another lap, lap 14, Chris Butcher will surely pit soon. Probably this time round, I'd say. Because he will want to put on those soft tyres and to fly as quickly as he can. Bit of a slide. Bit all over the place on pit entry. Whoa, big slide! Almost Tokyo drifting his way into the pits. Maybe costing him 3 or 4 tenths. Stops in his box. Goes on to softs. And Muscat's going to go through to retake the lead of the race. So Muscat leads now. The gap still 1.2 seconds to Luke Maguire. Tom Stevens goes through. So Butcher's not on the podium for now. Mike Quint goes through as well. Butcher's going to exit P5. And there's Furlich actually on the outside, so that's going to give Butcher a bit of a tow. Might hold him up a little in Radion. Furlich, of course, still out and yet to stop. One of the last drivers to do so, if not the last driver. And Butcher's going to fly past him in a straight line. Whoa, they touched. That was close. I got flashbacks of Hamilton and Perez in 2011 there. They get away with it. Chris Butcher is P5 once again. And will now start to fly on those soft tyres. Can he catch Mike Quint? He's lost about 3 seconds, so it's going to be tough. Yeah, I don't think this strategy has gone as well for Butcher as it would have done at some other tracks, because he hasn't... the leaders haven't got caught up in too much traffic. And Butcher's got to push extra hard in these late stages of the race to gain the same amount of time. But knowing Chris Butcher, he absolutely can. He's not leading this championship for nothing. If they finish as they are, I think Maguire will be back in the championship lead though. But Chris will be pushing. And of course, don't forget, race 2 is coming up after this, and in that, Butcher is going to be pretty quick as well. And will probably be starting ahead of his teammate in the order, which is going to give him an advantage of its own. We're watching now Jason Muscat and Luke Maguire. Maguire about 1.1 seconds off. Michael Furlich, meanwhile, does come into the pits at last, so Kardash back up to P6. It's going to put Menno Klont into the top 10. Maguire will still not be able to open his rear wing this time around. He's been lapping about the same speed as Jason Muscat the last few laps, but he'll need to lap faster. Otherwise, there's no way that he's catching up to that Multiforce GP car. I said before this round, Jason Muscat was the top driver in this championship, yet to score a point. Well, yet to win a race, as Shimon Frelich goes past Damien Kardash. But it could all change today, and what a better race to do it in than race 1 at Spa. That would show some real racecraft ability. Incidentally, Marco Felic came out in 14th after that stop, so still in the points, not too bad. The top battle in this race right now is Frelich and Kardash. That is the top DRS battle. And they're both on the same compound, so this is for position. 6th and 7th. With just 6 laps to go in the race now. Less than that actually, 5 and a little bit. The top 5, of course, have spread out since they were battling at the start of the race, since the first few laps where they seem to be side by side every time. But that does not by any means mean that the race is dying down. Chris Butcher is one of the most exciting names in the later stage of this race. He is going to be catching Mike Quint ahead. And of course, Maguire will not want to give up yet as he chases Jason Muscat. He's still not quite close enough to get the DRS, but he's trying. He really is. But yeah, once again, just outside of the DRS range. Who else has got DRS from the driver in front at this point in the race? Craig Patterson on George Sutton, that's over P11. And then further back, we've got a few outside of the top 15. 2 retirements have happened since last time I mentioned the race being clean. Owen Phil Haugsvik is out, as well as Tommy Koivunen. I don't know how either of those happened, unfortunately. I don't have replay. And replays on the stream are iffy at best, through no fault of any of our streamers, I should add. So I think that'll have to go a mystery unless they let us know in the YouTube chat, or potentially interviews after the races. But yeah, 24 cars still remaining out of the 26 who started. Shame Grashik never got a chance to show us what he was capable of, but he dropped out for whatever reason before the start of the race. Unsure whether that was voluntary or technical or whatever, but it happens from time to time. Here we're watching Luke Maguire, one of the drivers who has started every race of this season so far. The top driver who hasn't is Tom Stevens, who of course had to miss both of the races at the Hockenheim ring due to technical difficulties. And actually, Luke Maguire appeared to be faster on that last lap, and he was faster by about 0.3. So that means he's going to get the DRS. And he's got 4 laps to make a move. Will he be able to? And if he does, will he be able to stay ahead of Jason Muscat? Because then Muscat, of course, will have the DRS, and Muscat will have the overspeed on the straights. Maguire gaining and gaining, and that's the closest he's been at the end of the straight for a bit of a while now, since before the pit stop stages. Looks like Frelich versus Kardash is going to kick off again, not quite. Kardash was getting closer there to Shimon Frelich, but stays behind the Lightning Racing Academy car. Up in front, Maguire really is gaining on Jason Muscat here. I knew he would. I knew he'd have another attempt. I knew it would be hard for him, but now he's going for it on Jason Muscat. Muscat has won Supercup races before. In fact, he started winning Supercup races something like 7 or 8 years ago, and then had a bit of a hiatus in terms of Supercup wins before getting one at Australia in, I think it was 2018. And since then, he's been racking up a few more. Last year got 2 or 3. And I would be surprised if we go the full season and he doesn't win a race, actually. Although I'm not sure anyone really expected it to be in a race 1 considering how dominant the THR and HGP drivers have been so far this season. He will, however, need to hold off Luke Maguire, which is going to be a tough task. Maguire is within 4/10 of him, heading onto the straight part of the circuit. This is an opportunity, a real opportunity for Luke Maguire, who goes over the runoff on the inside of Radiant. You're allowed to do that because he was still on the curb. He opens his rear wing and he goes through, and Luke Maguire takes the lead in the last 3 laps here at Spa Francorchamps. Can Jason do anything about that? Can he get back at him? Can he use that DRS to win this race? Damien Kardashev, meanwhile, got back at Shimon Frelich for P6 and made that stick as well. And a textbook slipstream maneuver there from Luke Maguire, and he made the move stick. You often hear people saying that when people talk about the best overtakes at Spa, they always talk about the really daring, dangerous ones. You know, Webber on Alonso, and Maguire's running wide. Maguire went off the racing line and Muscat's through. It almost looked as if Maguire gave him the place. Maybe he did. Maybe that's because when he ran to the inside into Radiant. Whatever the case, he's behind him. That may have just been a mistake. I didn't see it properly. But Muscat retook the lead, and now they're side by side into Blanchimont. That's daring. Muscat stays ahead. Now here comes the bus stop. Careful, guys. To the outside. To the inside. Whoa, they almost banged tyres. Maguire's back ahead, but now he's got the disadvantage in the DRS zones. Fastest lap of the race for Maguire. Wait, no, never mind. His lap was invalidated. That's what confused me. Down the straight, up towards Radiant, and Muscat dropped to 9/10 back, so he's not going to get a chance to overtake this time. Wow, I really don't know what happened there, but it worked out okay for Maguire nonetheless. What I was going to say before is that people often talk about the best moves at Spa as being... Never mind, let's cut away from that, because Butcher's just passed Quint there for P4. Chris Butcher there up into P4 in the THR car, and Mike Quint had nothing to say about those tyres. Jan Grankvist passing Vincent Gutt, P8, and he's made that stick. I'm going to try it one more time, and if I get cut off this time, I'm going to give up. But anyway, so people often say the best overtakes at Spa are the really daring ones, like, you know, Webber and Alonso into Eau Rouge, or Max Verstappen around the outside of Nazareth, I think it was, until into Blanchimont. But I often think that's silly, because shouldn't the best overtaking maneuvers, the best, be the ones that are the safest and most effective? And yes, you know, those can often be easier maneuvers, but they are also better overtakes in my opinion, because they set out to achieve what an overtake sets out to achieve. So sometimes slipstreaming past another car in a straight line is exactly the best thing you can do. Bit of a lock-up there from Mike Quint. He's attacking Chris Butcher back again, not wanting to give way. Onto another lap. Muscat is about 8/10 behind Maguire, heading onto the straight. Maybe 9/10 actually. Does he still get DRS? We're on the penultimate lap of the race now, so he's got to keep in that buffer, otherwise he stands no more chances. He's got to get close enough to Maguire in the final sector to set up a move. Here's Quint now on Butcher. To the inside he goes, and through he goes. So HGP now once again 3rd and 4th in this race. And every time someone does that, it's points away from Chris Butcher in his championship challenge. And with Maguire leading the race, it looks as if Maguire is going to take the lead of the championship right back in this round. Of course, we still have race 2 to go, but this race anyway. Through Poom they go. Mike Quint doing a fantastic job standing in for Owen McGorgy, who I'm sure as well would be doing an equally fantastic job if he was here today, or maybe a better one. Nagorgi was one of the star performers of the early part of this season. There were parts of the first 2 rounds where I thought that he may have maybe set to go on to win the championship, but sadly dropped back a little after that, when THR really started to hammer in win after win after win. We're now going on to the final lap of the race, and I'm not sure that Muscat will have DRS from Luke Maguire. I think Maguire's done enough here. Into La Source he goes. Stevens has DRS on Muscat. Actually, it might not be over for second place. Yes, Maguire's going to be safe down the straight this time. Will Muscat be safe? That's the next question. I think Stevens is going to be too far back into Lecombe. There are other overtaking opportunities on this lap. Maguire leads from Muscat, Stevens, Quint and Butcher. Quint and Butcher are potentially going to go side by side again here as well. Mika Hakimi past George Sutton P11 as we talk. Side by side, Quint and Butcher. Butcher keeps P4. They do still have a few more opportunities though. This race, for some of the positions, could go right down until the bus stop. This is great stuff. Oh, Patson, Hakimi and Sutton were very nearly 3 wide on the straight. There's contact! And Patson goes sideways. Patson drops to P13. There was a little touch between him and Sutton there. And they only just get away with it. Hakimi locking up. This is intense wherever you look. Into the final sector now. Luke Maguire has just about done enough, providing he can keep it clean. I think Muscat has as well. Unless, of course, Stevens dives into the bus stop. What an intense race this has been, though. Right up until the end, it was unclear what was going to happen. Through the chicane they go. This is a penalty for Tom Ely, but final corner, and Luke Maguire is going to win race 1 here at Spa. Very well done to Luke Maguire. He had to really fight for that win. Jason Muscat is P2, probably led the most laps of that race out of anyone. Tom Stevens is P3, then it's Chris Butcher and Mike Quinn, Damien Kardash, Shimon Frelich, Jan Grankvist, Vincent Gutt, Menno Klont, and then just outside of the top 10, the fighting trio of Sutton, Hakimi and Patterson, in that order. Marco Furlich, and then the final point is going to be contested. Oh, into the bus stop. Kralinovic bumping wheels with Stan Vleistra, and Vleistra just misses out on scoring a Supercup point on his debut there. That is, of course, in the unofficial order. But yeah, Antonio Kralinovic there just hangs on to the final point in that race. And outside of the points were Vleistra, Wiederhaupt, and then Koenig, Sovic, Daniel Felipe Carrera, De Vries, Krop, Vikers, and Ely, with of course the 2 retirements being Koivunen and Phil Haugsbeck. Tough race for Moritz Krop there. I didn't see why he dropped back so much, but he ended up P22 in the end, on a day where he definitely had the pace for the top 10. Talking of the top 10, remember we do have a second race coming up soon as Ely decides to pull into the pits rather than see the checkered flag. But yeah, we do have the the second race coming up soon. It's going to be a partially reversed grid. A number's going to be drawn between 6 and 10, meaning that that number of drivers will be reversed in the finishing order of race 1 to create the starting order for race 2. And then, of course, it's going to be a 10-lap race, I think, or 11 laps, to see who will be the victor in the second race, the partially reversed grid race. We're going to go for a brief break now, but we're going to be back in about 5 to 10 minutes' time for the formation lap and then race 2. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be back. More exciting action to come. See you then. Welcome back everyone to GPVWC Supercup. We're just approaching the start of the second race. It's going to be 15 laps rather than 12 or 11 as I previously said. 15 laps around this 7.004 kilometer circuit. There's actually an interesting stat about that circuit length, which is that it is just 0.004 kilometers over the, so I should just say 4 meters over the maximum allowed length for a circuit, although, or a Grand Prix circuit anyway. But because it's only a tiny amount over, and because of the history of the circuit, they give it an exception to allow it to host Grand Prix anyway. But anyway, I'm sure these drivers won't be thinking about that right now. They're just gearing up for their second race. Let me see if we've had a reverse grid number. Oh, we have. It's 10. So the absolute maximum, meaning that if Luke Maguire is going to score a double victory, as Tom Stevens did last time out, he's going to have to come through from 10th place on the grid, which is going to be very, very difficult, especially considering the caliber of the drivers in front of him. Now, that does mean that Menno Klunt has pole position. And in a few seconds, we will see the full grid order. They're now lining up on the starting grid. And it looks as if we have all 26 of the drivers who were here for race 1. That's good to see. Sometimes drivers drop out between race 1 and race 2 if they've had technical difficulties or if they've just had enough. But luckily, we don't see that here. So if you missed race 1, it was very exciting. It was tense the whole way through. And in the end, the top 3 or 4 cars were separated by only a couple of seconds, 2 seconds or so. And race 2, of course, is shorter, so the chances of that happening again are actually quite high. It could be a good one. Anyway, let's take a look at the grid order then. It's going to be Menno Klunt starting on pole position alongside Vincent Gutt. Jan Granqvist will be 3rd ahead of Shimon Frolic. And those drivers could all be contenders for victory here. Damien Kardash is P5, followed by Mike Quint, Chris Butcher, and Tom Stevens. And then the big guns from race 1, Jason Muscat and Luke Maguire. Then just missing out on the reverse grid pole, George Sutton and Mika Hakimi. It's a good race actually for Maguire to be starting from back in 10th because there's a lot of overtaking opportunities here. Craig Patterson is P13, followed by Marko Frlic, then Antonio Krelinovic, and the first of the 3 new drivers, Stan Bleidstra, then Dominic Wiederhoeft, Philip Koenig, Scott Sovic, and Daniel Felipe Carrera. And then Gerrit Vries, Moritz Kropp, Kevin Vikers, and Tom Ely. And then, of course, we're going to get the 2 retirements, the 2 drivers who did not finish the first race, Tommy Koivunen and Owen Phil Haugsbeck. So that's how they will start. Once again, very short run down to the first corner, so they will probably stay that way. But as soon as they get to the Camel Straight at the top of Radillon, all hell is going to break loose. Hopefully, more in an exciting sort of way than, you know, carnage or whatever. But we shall see. So they're heading round to the grid now. There's Stavolo and Campus. Campus also known as Curva Paul Frere. I couldn't remember on the Formula Challenge broadcast if it was Paul Frere or Anthony Nose, but Anthony Nose, of course, is at Monaco. It's the final turn at Monaco. Paul Frere was a Belgian racing driver who raced in Formula 1 back in the 50s. Never had any huge results, but he was good. Especially considering he was very semi-professional and was a journalist in his spare time. To the grid now. Menno Klont will lead us away when the lights go out. Menno's had a few good results so far this season, so he could definitely be one to look out for here. Hasn't scored a podium yet though. He's got very close. He got a 4th place in Azerbaijan race 1, but hasn't got a podium. It is very difficult to pick a winner out of this bunch, and really I think you'd have to be a maniac to be confident about any of those. Oh, Jason Muscat slightly missed his box though. I'm actually going to say Vincent Gutt. It's a bit of a risk because he's got so many quick drivers behind him, but that's my bet, and we'll see at the end of the race. Okay, let's wait for the lights. Menno Klont starting at the front, alongside Vincent Gutt. 5, and it's go at Spa once again. Klont gets some wheel spin, but covers off Gutt, and he's going to get the lead. Look at Jan Grankvist. He's up the inside of Gutt now, takes P2 into turn 1. So that's how they stand out of the first corner. At the back, everyone clean once again. The first corner has been a relatively clean one in both races now. Up the hill goes Klont, followed closely by Grankvist. Grankvist going to get the run, and he goes to the outside. No DRS just yet, but he's got so much of an overspeed, it's not going to matter much. Gutt is there too, but he gets boxed in. But can he follow Grankvist through and get up to second? No, he can't. So Grankvist leads. Behind him, Kardash and Simon Frelick still side by side, bumping wheels almost, and keeping it under control with Kardash in 4th place. Chris Butcher now coming through on the inside and getting that place as well. P5 just touching Simon Frelick on the exit, but still under control. Seems like we have had a couple of casualties this time. Phil Haugsvik's missing his rear wing. Of course, he DNF'd in the last race as well. And Tom Ely's dropped behind the pack, as has Tommy Koivunen. And so a couple of drivers involved in something down the back. But everyone's still just about running in this race. Not sure if Phil Haugsvik is going to make it back to the pit start. Towards the end of the first lap of the race, it's Grankvist from Klont and Gutt. And is Klont going to be able to get close enough to challenge Grankvist next time they go down the Kemmel Straight? Yellow flag in sector 2 there. Didn't see anything that could have caused that, but maybe something's gone on. It could have been Phil Haugsvik trying to get back to the pits. But anyway, into the bus stop they go. Maguire is almost banging wheels there with Tom Stevens. Just about clean on the exit of the bus stop. Those two still only P9 and P10, but fighting hard because they are, of course, bitter rivals. Whoa, and sliding into the corner came Mika Hakimi, almost slamming into the back of Tom Stevens, but just under control. That was very close. Now up the hill they go, onto the Kemmel Straight once again. Who's going to get the advantage? Damien Kardash is going to go past Vincent Gutt, maybe. He goes to the outside line and goes through into 3rd place. So Gutt drops to 4th. Behind him, Mika Hakimi is going to pass Tom Stevens down the straight. There he goes. So Stevens muscled out of the top 10, and he's under attack from Sutton. Sutton not able to get through there. And that's going to really hamper Stevens' challenge, but props to Hakimi for going for that one. He's now broken into the top 10 from P12 on the grid. Instantly, we do have a retirement. Phil Haugsvik did not make it back to the pits. I can't say I'm surprised, I'm afraid to say. Very difficult to drive one of these cars without a rear wing, and often you see drivers retire on the spot. So, Maguire around the outside of Jason Muscat. These two were fighting for the win in race 1. Great move from Luke Maguire there, very brave. And gets P8 away from Jason Muscat. Now can he fight his way through the order before Muscat will have another chance to get back at him. Maguire's next target is Mike Quinn, who is just ahead of him in P7. Towards the end of another lap, Butcher looking racy on the back of Gut. Whoa, and Maguire, they're flying past Mike Quinn. Flies, but oh, and Quint spins, and goes around, and I think everyone's going to avoid him because he's kept it off the racing line. So Quint drops back, but luckily doesn't get hit. He's P15 now, so still in the points, but only just. It's a big loss of time there for Mike Quinn. Damien Kardash said in the first lap of the race last time around, we'll get the DRS open because that is effective from this lap. And Chris Butcher flies past Vincent Gutt. Looks as if my prediction for the win is proving itself to be a little wrong so far. Mika Hakimi just passed Jason Muscat. He's flying in this second race here. What a drive so far from Hakimi. He's passed two of the top three from race one. And no prisoners taken that for Mika Hakimi. Well done. Back to the leaders. Grangfist, Clont, Kardash, through Pool. As we continue to watch the Friesland car of Mika Hakimi. Friesland haven't had too many good results so far this season, but a P8 would not be frowned upon at all. Would that be their best result, actually? Let me double check that. I remember at the start of the season, Friesland were really struggling despite their... well, actually, the best result they've had so far was a P6 in race 2 at Australia. That was by Michael Teichmann, who was driving for them at the time. But after that, they began to struggle, and they're only down in 13th in the championship. Now, Muscat's got back at Hakimi there, and he's got back through into 8th place. Now, who was that? Shimon Frelich was taking a look at Vincent Gutt there, down into turn 1. Decided to settle and go for it again on the exit. Chris Butcher, fastest of anyone last time around. Fastest lap so far. But he is not quite yet on the back of Damien Kardash. Here comes Frelich. Frelich side by side with Gutt further back, but also Kardash now going for Clont, Kardash to the inside. And that's for second. Kardash goes through. Instantly Clont on the soft tyres. Whoa, what's happened further back? That looked like Frelich getting involved with Gutt. So Frelich and Gutt, I think, came together, allowing Maguire to get past both of them. Frelich's now P6, Gutt is P7. I don't think any of them will cost too much time in that, but they have been cost a place. I'm going to look back at that on the stream to see what I missed, because I was kind of looking down at the time. Actually, Maguire was right in there with them. Oh, Maguire made... Maguire made contact with Kardash. That's how it all kicked off. Well, Maguire's still P5 now. And I think got away with it relatively unscathed. So that's lucky. A couple of seconds behind Chris Butcher, who's now catching up to Manu Clont and fighting to get onto the podium. Of course, he broke his podium streak in race 1, only managing 5th. But knowing Chris Butcher, he's about to start a new one before long. And why not start now? Is he going to set another fastest lap this time? That's the start line. Not quite, but he was very close actually. Less than a 10th off the fastest lap of the race so far. He is really, really pushing. So a very brief yellow flag there. Looks as if Kevin Vikers is out of this race. Actually, Antonio Kralinovic is in the pits, and that's not a scheduled stop, so I think he might be about to retire as well. Yes, indeed. So 23 of the 26 starting drivers still in this race. Now, for the fight for second, Kardash defending from Clont. Clont to the outside, but finds no room there. That's an important defensive manoeuvre from Damien Kardash, but how long will it last? Further back, Tom Stevens got past Vincent Gutt, so that's a change there. Gutt down to 8th. I know this would have happened anyway, but I can't help but feel that I slightly cursed Vincent. Anyway. So Grandqvist, Kardashev and Klon. Kardashev, of course, came into the series later than some of the others. He joined from Canada and instantly impressed me there, actually. His racecraft was phenomenal. And then scored a podium in Britain and another one in Germany. And if he was to win this race, that would be one of the results of the year, to be honest. And he's currently 2.6 seconds ahead of Damien Kardashev, so really building out a lead here. Jan doing a wonderful job as cars fight behind him. I say quite a lead. For lap 5 it is anyway, but still not safe. Needs to make sure he doesn't make any mistakes in the remainder of this race. And Damien Kardashev still has a full view of him. And when you have a full view of the car in front of you, you really feel like a hunter. Even if they're getting away from you, your eyes kind of lock on to that rear end, and you push and you push and you push. Now onto the straight again. Kardashev versus Klont versus Butcher. The fight for P2. It almost changed last time around, but it didn't. Will it change this time around? Butcher has the disadvantage of the car ahead of him also having DRS. Whoa, they almost go 3 wide. And Butcher backs out of that very wisely. That would have been awful. Hakimi gets past Gut now. Hakimi's still absolutely flying. And Muscat fends off Sutton, who's also doing a good job here. And that is Daniel Felipe Carrera versus Flightstra. Whoa, little tap. Little tap, but they get away with it. And Moritz Kropp is right behind them as well. No, he's not, because he's out the race. I think Kropp may have just had a disconnection, along with Antonio Kralinovic. So both of those drivers out the race, I'm afraid to say. It's not been a good day for Moritz Kropp. In fact, both of the Nova cars appear to be struggling a bit, because Craig Patterson has been relatively anonymous today, considering he won race 2 at Silverstone, and even though he's not normally one of the cars fighting amongst the top 5, he's usually quicker than this, so Nova maybe not quite getting their setup right. It's ironic because Josh Downer was talking to me before the race started, and he said, if we do well today, can I finally have an interview? And I said, yeah, sure, sorry, I haven't interviewed you before. And now it doesn't look as if we're going to have any reason to, I'm afraid to say. But anyway, sorry Josh, maybe next time. Yellow flags in Sector 3. Not sure exactly why that is. Sometimes it's just a driver running a little bit wide or something like that. Everyone seems to be relatively okay. Now back to the fight for P2. Once again, they're on the straight. Oh, and look at Maguire getting involved as well. Surely Butcher's not going to let him through here. Not that easily, he says. This is great stuff. Hakimi fending off Gut. They bang wheels over 8th place. Oh, and they're going to bang wheels again, are they? And Hakimi fends off that position. This has been the best I've seen Hakimi drive so far. Little twitch from the extra Bruxelles, but he'll be okay. He'll keep 8th. Very wide there from Butcher. Now he's got a real headache here with Maguire behind him. Oh my goodness! And what's just happened there? And Mika Hakimi has flipped over the barriers, and I don't think that was his fault. Vincent Gut, I think, is involved as well. No, it's not Gut. Well, someone else was involved there. And that is a massive, massive disaster, because that was not anyone's fault. That looked, to me, like a lag spike. Just trying to work out who the other car involved in that was. Well, they're over the barrier as well. Oh, it's Jason Muscat. Oh, no. So Jason Muscat lagged back into Mika Hakimi. They're both trying to find a way back onto the circuit. Hakimi surely needs to retire because he's got no... He's missing a front wheel. And he's now on a country road, it seems. Jason Muscat trying to climb a hill and not managing it. So both of those drivers are effectively out of this race, even if they can find a way back in. And sadly, that happens all too much in R-Factor 2. those random lag spikes causing huge accidents. Anyway, down the straight once again, the battle for P2. Kardash, Butcher. Wow, so Butcher's got past Clunt, hasn't he? Yeah, so Butcher P3 now. And Maguire now up to P4. So both of the THRs have got past Melo Clunt. And now they're on the back of Damien Kardash. And Butcher has a problem because he's got Maguire behind him. And he needs to make sure he's not going to hold up his teammate too much. But at the same time, they are fighting hard over a championship, and there are not going to be any team orders there. It would be tragic if there were. So they are going to hold station unless Luke Maguire can fight for that place. More yellows. Mika Hakimi, meanwhile, has now given up on his attempt to get back into the circuit. Jason Muscat has made it back in. Great job from him, but it looks as if he is retiring now. Oh, and he crashes in Blanchimont. That's why you see yellows, and there's his car on the outside. And that does appear to be Jason Muscat's day done, I'm afraid. He's still going. He's still trying to get that car back to the pits. Meanwhile, Scott Sovic is also out of this race. If Muscat gets that car back and gets it repaired somehow, that will be a heroic effort. That he'll be well over a lap down. He's made it back to the pits, my goodness. 3 wheels on my wagon and he was at the bottom of a deep hill last time we looked. What a performance. Anyway, I don't think Kardash versus Butcher is going to change this time around. I think Kardash had just enough of an advantage over Butcher. But that battle is going to be the one to watch from now on. And Kardash is going to be challenging hard. Well, Butcher's going to be challenging hard to get past Kardash and regain that advantage in the championship that he lost in race 1. I know Felipe Carrera also came into the pits that last time around. Although we're not expecting pit stops in this race, so that was probably unscheduled. I want to see Jason Muscat exit the pits now. I know that he's not really a contender in this race anymore, but if he exits this pit lane, or he's smoking, he needs to turn the engine off and then back on again. But yeah, if he exits this pit lane at any point in proceedings, with all 4 wheels of course, then he is going to get a humongous cheer from the crowd. Reminds me of endurance racing, where you often see he's still got 3 wheels, hasn't he? He should not be out on track here with 3 wheels, because that car is certainly... No, he's got 4 wheels. It's just pinged into existence. Give a round of applause to Jason Muscat for getting that car back on the road. And yes, he's a lap down, and yes, he's behind some drivers who have retired already, and yes, he is not going to be scoring any points here, but he's won our hearts, if nothing else. Jason Muscat going out there just to have some fun now. Great stuff. Anyway, back to the battle for second now. Oh, and in the background, Clunt is well and truly under pressure from Tom Stevens. Let's continue to watch this battle for P2, because Butcher has got an insane drive down the straight. He's on the outside, and that looks relatively straightforward now. Kardash looks to come back at him, but I think just trying to distract him in the braking zone. And Stevens did indeed get past Clunt there for P5, so Stevens into the top 5 now. The winner of both races last time out. 5 laps remaining in this race now. And Jan Granqvist is still leading, not hugely comfortably. And with Chris Butcher behind him, he'll know that this is an important place to hold. Less than 2 seconds is the gap for the lead now. Granqvist only just has it over Butcher, but Butcher is gaining. Now, considering we're not on the Kemmel Straight right now, I'm going to take about a 5-second break, literally, to go and let my cat out the door, and then I will be right back, so you don't hear meowing in the background. Okie dokie, and nothing has been missed. Chris Butcher sets the fastest lap of the race, and I'm not surprised in the slightest. I knew that he would start pushing now, because he is not the kind of driver to settle for second, especially when there's a championship at stake and a championship lead at stake. And his teammate, of course, is still caught behind Kardash. Now, if Butcher was to win this race and Maguire was to finish fourth, then Maguire would still gain points over Butcher in the long run, but I don't think he would take the championship lead. Although I don't want to do arithmetic on the fly until at least the last couple of rounds of this championship. But Butcher is absolutely flying now, very nearly into the 149s. And in race 1, he did just about get into the 149s, but that was on soft tyres. Here's Stan Vlijtstra, who appears to be in the points on his debut in Supercup, and is about to go for a Move 1 character race for P13 and make it stick. But is he going to go wide? Yes, very wide. Whoa, and there's contact. That almost ended in tears. Keeps the place, but did he overstep the mark a bit there? I think Garrett will think he did. Anyway, for the time being, he's P13. Lap 11 out of 15 now. We're getting towards the 12th lap of the race. Butch is still pushing, but Grankvist is going to be replying to that. He knows that Butch is getting closer. Butch's last lap was a second faster than Grankvist, but this lap has appeared to be about the same pace, actually. Butcher doesn't appear to have taken any meaningful time out of Grankvist on this particular lap, maybe a tenth or two. But it's actually hard to tell because Butcher's lap was apparently invalidated. Not entirely sure why, but from what I saw, it was about the same time as Grankvist's lap. Damien Kardash is still there with him, as is Maguire. Stevens still in DRS range as well. So even Butcher, even though he's catching up to Grankvist, is not meaningfully ahead of Kardash here. In fact, Kardash is going to go through. Kardash goes through on the outside, says, well, you've had your time in the sun, but I'll take this back now. Your time is up. And now can Kardash gain on Grankvist and take the lead? The last few laps, Kardash has also been gaining on Grankvist, of course. Last time around, it was half a second. This could be really close between the top 3, 4, or 5 before the end of this race now. This is great stuff. So, down into the pith path. There you see the battle for first graphic. Grankvist, Kardash, Butcher, Maguire, and Stevens. Any of those 5 could win it. Of course, it's going to be much harder for Stevens to win it from the back of this chain, but any of these 5 could still win it, depending on what happens in these next few laps. Grankvist has the advantage, and Kardash still hasn't got DRS from the back of Grankvist's car, of course, meaning that he himself is still under pressure from Butcher. But they are gaining relatively quickly here. Maybe that overtake would have held them up slightly. Let's see. Across the line. Now Grankvist's lap was invalidated, but Kardash's was his personal best lap. And one of the fastest laps of the race, and I'll tell you who does have the fastest lap, it's Jason Muscat. Wow. Three-wheel Jason there. Fastest lap of the race, and that will be exactly what he was planning to do by going out into the race, just saying, this is what I can do. Stevens now on the outside of Maguire, trying to split the THRs, and with the overspeed, he gets it done. So Tom Stevens splits the THRs, and behind him, Shimon Frelick passes Menno Klunt, P6. We're on lap 13 out of 15. The race is almost done. Not many more opportunities for these drivers to go for overtakes. Here comes Kjort de Vries, not yet ready to give up that place to Vlijtstra. And gets it back again. A bit cleaner than the previous move we saw in that battle. And that's over P13. Vlijtstra not actually the top out of the three new... Oh, and De Vries has had a spin, I think. Yep, De Vries on the exit of Bruxelles had a bit of a pirouette, and he's now down into 16th. So Philip Koenig now in the points. But yeah, as I was going to say, Vlietster actually not the top new driver here out of the three new drivers who started the race. Dominic Wiederhoeft is currently running in P12, which is a decent effort from him. Damien Kardash is now in DRS range from Jan Grangqvist. He opens the slit on the back of his rear wing. For the first time, well, not the first time in a while, because he was right behind Chris Butcher before, but it's the first time that anyone has had it from Jan Grangqvist in a while. He's not going to be close enough for a move here. In fact, he's more likely to be under pressure from Chris Butcher. Up the hill they go. Oh! And Stevens running very wide, but keeping it under control. No, Butcher, I think, that was running very wide, but keeping it under control. But that may just be what Kardash needs to keep that P2 for now. And he does. That was a slight error there. There's Craig Patterson. Sorry, there's Menno Klont. I'm always a little worried when I see yellow flags, because there are a lot of drivers fighting closely in this this race, and it always makes me think something's happened. Talking of happening, that was Chris Butcher, was it? Getting all sorts of out of shape on the extra Vix, and allowing Tom Stevens back through. Or through, rather. So Stevens is now P3. I was saying how unlikely it was for him to win the race, but he could still do it, you know. We're on the penultimate lap of the race, and he's about 1.3 seconds off the leader. Tom Stevens is a real dark horse in this race now, due to mistakes from both THRs. So here we go, we're approaching the final lap of the race. It's going to be Grangqvist versus Kardash versus Stevens, Butcher and Maguire. Kardash hanging back into the bus stop. He could have gone for it there, but he's doing this strategically. Little twitch, but it's all going to be about the exit from La Source. That's the start-finish line, and they go. Ever so slightly faster than Grangqvist on that last lap. Here comes the slipstream. This is the final lap of the race. This may be the final attempt they have, the final chance they have to swap places down into La Source. It's all coming down to this. Kardash is gaining. DRS open. Goes to the outside line of Jan Grangqvist's car and sweeps through in the braking zone. Damien Kardash takes the lead on the final lap of the race. And it's not yet certain he's going to win, because there is still a few more overtaking. Oh, there are still a few more overtaking opportunities coming up. But Grangqvist is struggling on those soft tyres now. Damien Kardash has done everything that he needs to do. But now he just needs to keep it under control for the last few corners of the lap. Where will Grangqvist finish? Will he hold off Tom Stevens? He's already dropped to 1.1 seconds behind Damien Kardash now. It looks as if Kardash is going to be safe. This has been an even more exciting race than race 1, which is saying something. Up towards Blanchimont. And Stevens is gaining eerily quickly here. Don't do it in Blanchimont, oh my goodness. Oh, he's side by side. Grangqvist gives him space. He'll be on the inside into the bus stop. This is for P2 on the last lap. And the THRs are side by side. And Stevens goes through. Damien Kardash wins race 2 in Spa on the final lap. That is fantastic stuff. Tom Stevens is second, then it's Jan Grangqvist. Chris Butcher fends off his teammate Luke Maguire, who went for it on the last lap. And Kardash does donuts on the extra turn 1, which you're technically not allowed to do. But he won, so I suppose it is understandable. Mike Quintus P6, then it's Shimon Frelick, Menno Klont, Vincent Gutt, George Satin, then Dominic Wiederhoeft, Craig Patterson. Stan Vlietster will claim points on his debut, as did Wiederhoeft, of course. And then it's Tom Ely, Philip Koenig, so both RTD cars just about getting into the points there. And missing out will be Gerrit de Vries after his spin, Tommy Koivunen, Daniel Felipe Carrera, Marco Furlich, And three-wheel Jason, who finished a lap down with the fastest lap of the race. He did retain that. Well done, Jason Muscat. Out of the race, of course, was Scott Sovic. Mika Hakimi, who was going to be one of my drivers of the day there. Oh, Khaled has just been slaughtered on the extra turn 1. Again, you are supposed to technically do turn 1 safely before pulling over and celebrating, so hopefully he doesn't get too big of a penalty for that. You can forget things like that in the heat of the moment, especially when you just won a race, but anyway. Yeah, also out of the race were Moritz Kropp, Antonio Krilinovich, Kevin Vikers, and Owen Vilhoxvik. So there you see the finishing order in front of you there. That's how they're classified. Points going down to P15 there. Of course, these are the unofficial race results. Penalties and stuff can still come into effect. But what a race that was, coming down to the very last lap and keeping us guessing all the way. I love races like that. Chris Butcher finishing ahead of his championship rival teammate there. Although, all in all, Luke Maguire scored more points and I think took the championship lead today. But it's going to be so close between the two of them still. Let's talk to the driver who finished second place in that second race there. Tom Stevens, do you hear me?
Yeah, hello.
Good. So Tom, a couple of really good results here today. Not quite as good as you scored last time out at Paul Ricard, but still, 2 podiums. That's got to tick some boxes.
Yeah, I really wasn't expecting to come back like that in race 2. The start was pretty bad for me. I dropped from 8th to 11th, and then I don't know where the pace came from, but I must have been able to conserve the tyres a bit better, and then it just felt really, really solid at the end, and yeah, that was a good result.
Indeed. Well, you really did gain places in race 2 there. You went from being a dark horse in the race to being, oh my goodness, he could win this. So was there kind of a gradual progression in the race of you just getting more and more excited, or were you focused the whole way?
Yeah, to begin with, when I dropped down, I was sort of a bit disappointed because I thought I'm not going to get back because my pace in race 1 wasn't quite on par with Muscat and Maguire and Butcher. So I wasn't really expecting to get that far through, but I just kept going up the order. I wasn't really expecting it, and I've got to give it a great one to Mike. He did a fantastic job having a moment going down to 14th and still recovering to some decent points. So yeah, that's a really good job today for HGP.
Indeed, he did. Of course, Mike Quinn ending up 6th in the end there, and good points. Yeah, we had that Owen McGorgy had a problem with his wheel, which is why he couldn't race today. And we know you're missing your support, but is he going to be back soon? Do you have any updates on that?
I'm not sure if he's coming back. I think he will, and I really want him to. So yeah, we should be back soon.
That's good to hear. Anyway, congrats on a double podium. You're on a little bit of a streak now, Tom. And let's hope you can keep it up after the summer break. Good luck.
Fingers crossed. Thanks.
Okie dokie. So I'm not sure which of the 3 people I currently see in the waiting room were there first, but so sorry if I'm going to kind of snub someone there. But anyway, let's bring in Luke Maguire there. So Luke, race 2 didn't go as much to plan, although it's still a decent haul of points. But let's start with the positives. You won the first race.
Yep, it was a really tough, actually, probably the toughest race victory I've had this season. Jason had really good pace. We were really pushing those mediums in the second stint, but in the first stint, I let him go thinking that I could follow him quite easily, but I couldn't. I really was struggling to keep it within a second of his DRS, and he went for the undercut, I went for the overcut, and he came back out ahead of me. So just had to knuckle down and try to get past on the mediums. And I think his tires went a bit towards the end, and I got the move done going up a Rouge, and then I got a cut track while doing it. So I said, okay, I need to give this position back. And gave it back, and then I think he thinks that I gave it back maybe in a wrong position, but we'll discuss it after the race. I think it was a nice, fair race, so yeah, happy with race 1.
Well, it was sporting. I think you would have got away with that, actually, considering you were still on the curb, but very sporting nonetheless.
Yeah, just Toby was just saying to me, just in case, just do it. You're not going to lose anything.
Yeah. Well, you didn't. I mean, you won the race, and what a race it was. Race 2 was slightly tougher. You had to come through from 10th on the grid, and there were a couple of drivers who got in the way or made your life a little bit tougher. Talk us through that mega fight.
I think I know it's P5. It's not P1, but I actually kind of think this is my best race 2 yet. Did some really good moves in the first few laps and had really good pace, but just kind of caught the slipstream in the wrong time for some people. And Tom had really good pace behind, so he was catching. Yeah, no, me and Chris were going racing, which was fun, and yeah, fair play to Chris for keeping ahead, and fair play to all the guys at THR for keeping their heads cool, even though me and Chris were trying to kill each other.
But you went for it into the final corner of the race, right as the cars in front were going for it as well. That must have been a tense moment for everyone involved.
No, maybe for Chris, I knew I was only gonna, if I outbroke him, if I saw him go behind me in the mirrors, I would have went for it, but I was kind of just gonna brake with him and see what he did, and I had full trust in him that he wouldn't turn in on me or anything, so it was okay. We laugh about it, so.
Fair enough. Well, congratulations on your race 1 victory, and congrats on your good points in race 2 as well.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Okay, so that was Luke Maguire, race 1 victor. We don't have the race 2 victor in yet, so let's instead talk to Luke's teammate, Chris Butcher. Chris, you there?
Hello.
So Chris, no podiums for you in the end, I think, unless I'm very much mistaken. But you did gain a few points back on your teammate in race 2. Of course, race 1 not quite to plan. How do you feel about today as a whole?
A bit disappointed, to be honest. I threw the podium away in race 2. Just sort of lost the back end pushing too hard. But yeah, race 1. I think I got the strategy a little bit wrong. Maybe should have pitted a lap or 2 earlier, and then I could have possibly been fighting with Stevens for 3rd. But yeah, I don't know. We were looking like we were in trouble a little bit coming into this. Again, not really had huge amounts of time to put a lot of laps in. So I guess to come away with a decent amount of points isn't too bad. We're still obviously leading both championships. I think Luke's probably leading the drivers now, but yeah, not too bad. Could have been worse, I guess.
Well, it's very close between the two of you. I'm not sure how many points are between you, because I don't want to do arithmetics and waffle at the same time. But anyway, back to race 2 quickly. You were in a DRS train right up until the final lap. When was the point when you thought, okay, well that's the win gone now, or did you not? Was it right up until the end you were going for it?
I knew it was gone when I threw it off the track and Stevens got past me. But yeah, I mean, everybody was so fast in a straight line today, and I think we were just missing that 1 or 2 kilometers an hour. So it made it really, really hard to get past people. So yeah, if I hadn't have thrown it off the track, maybe, but with a slight deficit we had in a straight line, it was always going to be difficult.
We saw how important that Kemmel Straight was there. Anyway, there are 2 more people I quickly want to interview, so I'm going to quickly have to dismiss you. Sorry, but thank you for the interview there, Chris. And a double top 5. Don't be too hard on yourself.
Thank you.
Okie dokie. Right, let's quickly speak to Jan Grangfist. Hello, Jan.
Hello.
Jan, do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Yes, we do hear you now. So Jan, you actually led the most laps in race 2 then, starting on soft tyres. You built out quite a big lead, but sadly it wasn't to be. How do you feel about that?
I mean, what can I say? I mean, I'd be maybe a bit too greedy for demanding a win in this round, since I had barely practiced at all. So it did came as a surprise that I did ultimately have the pace for like a possible win there. But like all in all, yeah, I am a bit frustrated that there was this 1 more lap too much, and but still a podium, and like I'm still satisfied with that.
Yeah, that last lap must have been a little bit heart-wrenching. With that being said, you came into the season late and you've already had 3 podiums. That's pretty impressive there. You must be feeling pretty proud of how this has started.
Yeah, I mean, it's gone surprisingly well, like everything so far in GPV, and honestly, I mean, I hope to keep this up in the future as well. And yeah, definitely proud of what I've already achieved so far.
Well, you should be, and I'm really surprised that you didn't get much practice because you could have fooled me. Anyway, congratulations on another podium. That's your 3rd in GPVWC, and good luck in future rounds.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, anyway, and last but very much not least is Jason Muscat. Jason, P2 in race 1. We'll get on to race 2 in a minute, but first of all, let's start with that high. That was quite a race.
Yes, it was a great race, battling with Luke and Tom. It was very fair, and I'm really happy that I had the pace of the top guys. Just a shame I couldn't get the win, but yeah, in the end, I think I pushed too hard early in the stint on the mediums. So, like with 3 laps to go, the mediums kind of gave up. But yeah, P2. I'm happy with that
Well,
one.
you're the top driver in the championship who hasn't yet got a win, and I thought you were going to break that today at some point, but sadly it wasn't to be. Race 2, I'm afraid we saw the lag spike, we saw the accident. That must have been heartbreaking, but props to you for getting back to the pits on 3 wheels and then setting fastest lap. That was, I think you ended up as a bit of a crowd favorite there at the end.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to get back to the pits. Yeah, it's a shame I had an incident early in the race with Luke. Got my suspension damaged, and that's why I started losing so many places. And yeah, then that happened. But yeah, not much I could do, to be honest. So I'm still happy.
It was no one's fault. How did you actually get into the track again? Because we didn't see that. Where was the opening?
There was no opening. There was like a ramp, so I flew over the barriers. I gave it my best to.
You just Dukes of Hazzarded back into the circuit.
No, it wasn't straight into the circuit, and I knew there weren't any cars coming around, so I thought I'll give it a shot.
It's
I didn't
amazing.
land back on the track, so yeah.
Well, congratulations for doing that. That was fantastic to see. Commiserations for your accident, but still, I mean, you got a podium from today. So, as I said to Chris Butcher, don't be too hard on yourself.
Thank you.
Okie dokie. So that was Jason Muscat, and that, of course, is all we've got time for today. But what a delightful couple of races that was. Very, very enjoyable. Thank you all for watching. Thank you as well to Heigo Poom for providing all of the cameras and the visuals that you saw. Remember, next week we have the Super League Lights and the Super League, which is going to be very exciting from here. But if you missed those, I'm afraid you're going to have to wait something like 4 weeks. It is 4 weeks now until the round for Monza, which will be the next event, because it's summer break time. So everyone, make sure you're putting on that sun cream, staying safe, masking up when you need to. Just generally having a fun time. So anyway, from me, Caitlin Penny, see you then.